welcome everyone to the panel, Greening in the Film Industry, Putting Words into Actions. This panel is co-organized by Creative Europe Media Desk in Bari in Italy, which is represented by my colleague Andrea Coluccia. Andrea, you can wave, yes. And also by the Media Desk in Vilnius, Lithuania, in cooperation with La Guarimba Film Festival and Film Residency, which is represented by the director Giulio Vita. And my name is Ustea Melvidaite, and I'm the head of media office at Creative Europe Desk Lithuania. So today we invited all of you to share your thoughts on the idea of greener film industry. And it's definitely not a new topic, but its importance was raised once the European Commission declared greening as one of the cross-cutting issues or topics or priorities, how you want to call it, and together with another one which was named as gender balance, diversity, inclusion, and representativeness. It is expected to be addressed by all the applicants of Creative Europe and basically by all of the parts of the value chain in the audiovisual sector. And back in the month of May, La Guarimba Film Festival organized another panel together with Lithuanian Shorts and Cultural Attaché in Italy for Lithuania about the topic of gender balance and about the representativeness of women in the Lithuanian film industry. And we thought that it's also very important to raise the question about the greening too. So from this year, when applying for Creative Europe program and applying for the media sub-program, it is noted that this in the guidelines that the special attention is given to those applications which present adequate strategies on how to ensure a more environmentally respectful industry and also how to ensure gender balance, diversity, inclusivity, and representativeness in the audiovisual sector. This special attention basically translates to the points which are awarded to the applicants who present those strategies. They can obtain up to 10 points, which is a very significant number. And I see people who have applied to media before, and I think they understand that obtaining 10 points is a very, very big deal. So it's 5 points per each strategy. So it's something that you cannot just forget to write about. You have to think about it, and you have to think how to present it, and afterwards how to implement it. But of course, the question is, what is a good and effective green strategy? And so far, and how do you even create one? And so far, there is no answer, and I don't think there will be a single correct answer on how to present this kind of strategy, but rather we will see a bunch of good examples from different parts of the industry and from the industry professionals. How are they making their work environment more sustainable? So for this reason, we invited film professionals that represent different parts of the industry, coming from both Lithuania and Italy, to share with you, to exchange their ideas on their actions, what are they doing to make significant change, and not only to secure the funding, but also to actually achieve the goal of a more environmentally friendly and respectful industry. So I'll give the floor to my colleague Andrea to present all the panelists today and to continue with the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ostea, for your beautiful presentation, which explained our today mission, let's say, in line with the Creative Europe media priorities, let's say, cross-cutting priorities. Thanks to Giulio Vita and the director of La Guarimba Film Festival, hi Giulio, for hosting us in this panel. Thanks to Romas Zabarauskas, director and producer, Lithuanian director and producer. The name of the production company is Narrativas. Am I right, Romas?
Yeah, you're right. Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Ludovica Chiarini, our green manager expert. Hi, Ludovica. Alessandro Groppelero, the head of When East Meets West, and also an ambassador of EAVE in Italy, let's say. And then thanks to Francesca, who is helping us with the organization of the event, my colleague in Italy. And then I think we are ready. Just a small remark about there will be this panel, and at the end there will be 10 minutes of Q&A. So if you have any question for our speaker, please write on the chat button, and at the end we will collect all the question and for our speakers. And also this panel will be available on our YouTube channel. So at the end we will send the link to the participants, and it will be available online. So let's start with Romas, Zabarauskas. So Romas, regarding the topic, regarding from the point of view of the producer, what about green strategies? What is happening in your everyday life? What is your approach to this topic?
Hi. So thank you so much for organizing this and for inviting me. And thank you everyone for listening. So yes, I'm a filmmaker, producer and director of my own films. And the green initiative that I really started to use is to partially veganize my films. So I partially veganized my two last productions, You Can't Escape Lithuania 2016 and The Lawyer in 2020. So basically, well, I'm a vegan myself for 7 years, and I am so for environmental reasons, because vegan diet is a great way to, contribute to environmental goals, because meat and dairy industry are damaging our planet quite a lot, as the research shows, and United Nations experts recommend vegan diet for that cause as well. So for me, it was only natural that I decided to introduce it on the set as well. So I cooperated both times with animal rights organization Tušti narvai, Empty Cages. And so in the case of You Can't Escape Lithuania, we did an Indiegogo vegan filmmaking challenge, and we raised 3,000 euros for that cause. But then we really promised to go fully vegan. And so all the meals that we served for the crew and cast were fully vegan. And well, I also asked the costume designer and production designer to use vegan materials. That was quite a challenge, but that was a very indie film, small budget. So it was easier to cope with that. But anyway, so that was a success, and we involved vegan community, and we also promoted like making a making of video that involved this vegan aspect of our set. So it was this kind of full circle. And then with The Lawyer, since it was already a bigger production and we shot in Lithuania and Serbia, a country outside my home, we decided to do it more partially vegan. So the meals we encouraged to choose vegan option, but we did have also non-vegan option for the crew and cast. But still, we also collaborated with the same organization. We had a vegan volunteer on set, and we also did 2 making of videos, again, to kind of return the favor for the vegan community. And so, yeah, this was basically my experience. I know it's not very regulated. It would be difficult to kind of measure the impact, but I think since we're kind of promoting veganism also, with our talents then that are on set, like with our actors, so we send a broader message to society also. So I think it's really a win-win situation, and I intend to carry on.
Yeah. Thank you. It's a really a tough decision, it's really, it influences our habits, our everyday life habits, but it's an important decision. And what about, speaking about everyday life, what about transports during a production? What about, do you have any specific attention to this topic?
Yeah, so obviously during the pandemic, everyone slowed down. And I think naturally we were already all thinking in the industry about the unsustainable nature of, traveling to all the festivals. But I don't know. For me, I think that meeting people in person is very important. And I decided that at this stage of my career, I cannot limit my international travel, you know, as much as I'm invited to. Like, but I decided that since this year, my company will carbon offset all the damage from all the flights, no matter if they're paid by us or by an inviting institution, because obviously not always we pay the flights. And so, you know, it would be kind of difficult if we start to negotiate that, to ask to pay this compensation for us. So I just decided we will do it and show a good example. So there is this website, for example, myclimate.org, but there are different websites like that as well. And it's basically a charity organization. This one is based in Switzerland. And you can write in your flight information, how the flights are, what is the connection flight. They calculate the, you know, the distance, and then they calculate the damage that we are doing. And then you can choose to donate to a charity, which would basically kind of, you know, help the world with the same amount. So basically offset your carbon damage. So of course it has its own flaws, and you know, this kind of thinking is not entirely like fully sustainable, and maybe other speakers will have thoughts on that, but I think it's a good step forward, and it's something we can do, you know, as producers. And so I think it's a good step forward, so I recommend doing that.
Thank you, Romas. A lot of useful tips, since it is a new theme, no? A new topic. So it's really interesting to understand how concretely it looks like, let's say. For this reason, I would like to move on with our speaker. So the next one is our green manager, Ludovica Chiarini. Since you are our expert in this really new theme, let's say, I would like to know, to ask you an overview of what is happening at a European level. What is the state of the art in Europe, Ludovica?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. So that's a very good question. Well, the first thing that we have to understand also is that when we talk about green, usually, you know, we use this word, and it usually refers to the environmental sustainability aspect of sustainability at its large, which is also the economic and the societal aspect. And so if we look at all sorts of initiatives in Europe, we can see the many have started rising in recent, I would say, from like 8 years ago till today. Some of them come from film commissions, so some come from, you know, the sensibility of different territories. They feel they need to support their territory, and that they can ask filmmakers to come on their literally piece of earth, and treat it accordingly. Then there are other elements, such as the calculators. I guess some of you are familiar with either Albert or Eureka. So these are these kinds of tools that are trying to convert the overall impact of a set in CO2 numbers, or in general in greenhouse gas emissions numbers. Those are also very useful, I guess, more in raising awareness. At least that's what I find. It really helps to sort of showcase in a nice graphic way, you know, the different elements of impact. But at the same time, and I'll go into this a bit later, it's not the only element of impact that we might be needing to take into consideration. And then there are other elements, which are the sort of the protocols, or the guidelines, however we want to call them. And those come from all different areas. So some are from private entities, some are from guilds. Like I remember even before Europe, right? The PGA, so the Producers Guild in America, issued some sort of guidelines. And those have become really detailed, potentially. So for example, the one that I use, especially in my work, it has become really detailed. So we go into all sort of elements, going from the very small aspects of like the chemicals that you use to dye different fabrics or the food that you employ, but also to the very sort of bigger elements, such as the energy consumption and the transport and so on. All of these are also starting to look at certifications. That means that it's not just about sort of a self-assessment. It's not really about trying to check what you were able to do, but it's also about starting to see other people come in, third parties, right, that are independent in their accreditation and in certification, that can come in and really assess what you were able to do. That clearly is maybe a next step for many, of course. I come from the producers side of the job. I work with producers and for producers. So I really understand that it's not maybe the first step for everyone, but at the same time, if we, again, also in line with European strategies at large, so not just for our sector, the idea of moving towards a greener economy and a greener sector really requires some sort of benchmarks to be put in place, some sort of also scientific methodology to assess what we're doing. And so these are sort of all of these different parts are coming together. At the same time, of course, as Romas was saying, it's very true. It's not just about, and that's what I was mentioning before, it's not just about CO2 emissions. I always say this, right? Environmental impact can be many things, and not everything can be calculated in CO2. And it also comes down to like a work culture shift, right? Of course, as we were saying, Romas is vegan and is very happy to eat vegan every day, but some of the crew maybe isn't as much. And that's also that just goes also as us as European citizens, right? So this sort of work needs to go hand in hand with a cultural shift. And that's why it's important to also include all sort of stakeholders, right? As we would call them in other sectors. So include everyone in the conversation and make sure that it's really integrated in the work. And that's why, a lot of incentives work, right? That's also something that Ostea was saying, it's important to sort of link incentives and public finance mainly, of course, to a greener economy. But at the same time, we need to make sure that in order for it to happen, it's not just something that's raining down on us as a sort of like a Bible that we have to follow, but it clearly also needs to come sort of as a grassroots initiative. So from down up, and that also of course requires a lot of training of people such as me or other professionals, but also training of all the cast and the crew in order for them to grow step by step towards better sort of strategies. And that's also of course how you move one crew that maybe, I've worked with crews that it's their first time, and then I've been working with crews that, that have maybe worked with me 4 or 5 times, and you can really see the growth. But that also of course takes time and sort of takes the strategy that we were mentioning, and that really includes everything. So it includes the diversity and the inclusivity, so all the social element, as well as of course the environmental one. And so yes, when we talk about cross-cutting issues, I think it really is cross-cutting, both in terms of methods, right? So we need the certification and the training and the full life cycle assessment, and then we need it to be cross-cutting in all of the themes that we go and investigate when we on set decide to have a strategy.
Well,
it's a lot, I know.
Yeah, you spoke about calculator, you spoke about protocols, incentives, strategy, you identify some needs, let's say, of the sector, which is not really only about cinema and audiovisual sector, but it's kind of a holistic approach, let's say. What is the future, in your opinion, Ludovica? What are the main obstacles because of this introduction you gave us?
What is the future, Ludovica? That is the question that I ask myself every day. So I guess, the cross-cutting element, sorry, not the cross-cutting, the holistic element that you were saying is really crucial. I find this more and more also when we talk about, for example, new technologies, right? A lot of focus is put on new technologies. And clearly, it's not all that we need. Again, we talked about the culture shift, but it's true that, green technologies are going to come in handy for us, and they're going to sort of infiltrate our sector as well. And those often don't come from our sector, right? So for example, sometimes, the sort of electric generators that have come from the events, they maybe have different needs to us. So a lot of I think the key role that will be played in these sort of this year and the couple next years, is really to try and get the knowledge that is from other sectors that we can use onto our sets, and sometimes also to decline it onto our needs. So maybe it needs to be silent, or maybe it needs to be mobile, because we can't maybe bring huge hydrogen tanks, right, wherever we go and so on. But it really can also work in together. And for example, Romas was saying, I work with nonprofits and NGOs, and so all those sort of parties can come to play. Usually when we are on a set, there's a very sort of set hierarchy of who does what, and that is needed, of course, because of our time constraints, and that's crucial. But at the same time, being able to work with other maybe associations or elements, or also players in your territory, is really crucial. Maybe it's to save waste, maybe it's to repurpose elements of your sets and so on. So it really can really be done. And I was saying, the other day, it's really, we sometimes, I think, at least me personally, we're very lucky, because in Europe, we don't have really borders, right? We can move technology and we can move people really fast and really quickly around for any reason. And so, if I'm having, for example, an electric generator, so-called, moved from Germany, and of course it's really simple to have it, I can just have the supplier there and have it shipped over. So I think sometimes we overlook the real privileges of being in a European Union in that way, because we can really share knowledge and technologies and people, just professionals, really, really easily.
So kind of strengths and weaknesses of our system, let's say. So good and bad things. So that's a good start, let's say. Thank you, Ludovica. We can move to Alessandro Groppelero, which is our representative from the market side, let's say. But before speaking about When East Meets West, as ambassador of EAVE in Italy, I read about a press release on EAVE website. EAVE launches a comprehensive and high-impact green policy. Can you explain in which way, which is the strategy, if you can explain us? Yeah, thank you.
So Andrea, thank you everybody for joining this conversation. I think that before entering the EAVE green policy that was recently launched, I just wanted to make a very short introduction, because I think that according to what Roma said and also Ludovica, I think that the let's say strategy behind anything connected to film production, especially the shooting days, I think it's like we have been able to talk about it, to discuss about it, and to really have the whole industry already involved. As Ludovica was just mentioning, of course, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of like integration with other sectors, but I think that we are already achieving quite important results, and it's really for sure the importance of like having producers like Romas, but also having film commissions like those that all over Europe and not only are involved in this process. For us, being more involved in what is called the development phase, it is meant to really ask ourselves how we can also have an impact when basically we are not yet there in the film production, in the set. And I think that speaking about development, the core of all these activities is bringing professionals together in most of the cases. And in most of the cases is to bring professionals all together from all over the world. And so the big question is like how to make our activities a little bit more sustainable, because we still believe that the essence of our activities, like to network, to mingle, to bring together film professionals. So concerning EAVE, and I'm happy to speak on behalf of EAVE, because yes, as Andrea was saying, I'm the Italian national coordinator for EAVE, but I'm also very, very lucky to be, let's say, one of the partners for one of the international workshops that EAVE does, which is called Ties That Bind, which is a workshop between Europe and Asia. So basically knows exactly what's the problem of sustainability. between the two continents. EAVE moved the first steps towards, let's say, an idea of how to possibly reduce the environmental impact of their activities already a few years back. But they decided, let's say, to really plan a full strategy that worked in different layers, and to really share it. As Andrea was saying, you read it, but because it was really like an idea to commit completely on that, and to really be able to communicate it, and to be one of the benchmarks in the film industry connected to the training sectors. And I think like this was very useful, because I think that the most interesting and relevant approach is that it's really with simple and feasible actions, everyday actions, you can really achieve something on a long term. And the actions that basically EAVE, I will try really to summarize these actions, because it's a very long green policy statement, that the manifesto that they had. So I just picked up here and there some of their concrete actions, because the idea is that these concrete actions will have an impact on the staff, on the pedagogical team, on the guest experts, and as well as the workshop participants. And basically, EAVE has organized the green policy in 3 different key areas. First of all, is the daily functions at the workshops. So basically, EAVE, for those who are not very familiar with EAVE, is a residential workshop that every year picks up a different region or a different location. So basically, there is a huge work in terms of scouting, in terms of like identifying the right location, and in terms of traveling the people to that location. So basically, thanks to this new green policy, EAVE will pay a lot of attention in the choice of the supplier, the accommodation, and the accommodation choices. So basically, they will negotiate with every workshop hotels from here to the future all the choices regarding avoiding plastic cups and bottles, setting up a proper recycle system, stop producing during the workshop unnecessary materials such as badges, and replace all printed workshop materials with digital versions. Also here, Romas will be very happy to probably participate in the future in an EAVE workshop, because also for EAVE, there is an intention to offer a maximum of 2 meals with meat per week. And of course, also an idea to offer mainly regional and seasonal food when possible. And another important area, along with the daily functions at the workshops, is travel to workshops, festival, or other industry events. Because of course, the whole goal of our events is also to scout and meet possible applicants and possible experts that we need to involve in our workshops. So of course, the first idea is to avoid unnecessary travel and organize meetings online when it makes sense, and having only the let's say essential staff members traveling to workshops and to festivals around Europe. Another idea is to prioritize online meetings for invited decision makers, and finally to book train tickets instead of flights. The last important key area where EAVE is paying attention is on the daily office practices, including also the purchase of equipment and materials. So basically, the first idea is like every new equipment or office materials should be bought in local shops instead of online retailers. Avoid all unnecessary printing, replacing all printed promotional publications with digital versions. Avoid in all situations plastic cups, bottles, and other single-use products. Improving further the recycling practices. And there are plenty of other small but very well-intended and very peculiar choices to be followed, and you can find them in the website of EAVE, eave.org. And the whole idea also is not only in the green policy seen as a series of concrete actions that EAVE can take care of. is also about the choice of film projects that can basically also have an environmental theme, or they can have a sustainable production approach. So basically the whole idea of like trying to see the same problem with different perspectives is one of the key elements in the Evergreen policy.
Thank you. It was exhaustive. This list, this manifesto, this summary of Ever Manifesto. I would like to move to your market, to Wayne Smith West, and understand if you have some specific, some particular strategy, green strategy. In last year, it was totally online. Am I right, Alessandro?
Yes, yes,
so
it was
what
totally
about this
online.
year?
Well, I think that, well, first of all, also, as Australia was saying at the beginning, as also you were saying, I think that this basically requests the requirement from Creative Europe to plan ahead a very, very detailed strategy was really, really helpful, I think, for the whole film industry. And I think that this is like a sort of like, I think that the positive impact that Creative Europe has on us, like pushing us towards some, let's say, further steps. So not to, okay, not to stay, let's say, not to just like be happy with what we achieved in the past, but it's always like to try to achieve something more. And I think that this was really like, in terms of like creative and brainstorming process for us was already very, very, very useful, because of course, in terms of gender balance and in terms of other activity, in terms of diversity, Wayne Smith West had planned a lot of initiatives and events, also in partnership with many, many different partners, international partners. In terms of, let's say, plan a sort of like more sustainable event, we could already feel in the past few years, when it was possible to travel, that basically we were, let's say, we could feel that our guests were more and more, let's say, careful about their choices, their own choices before traveling to a market. And I think that this was really also very inspiring for us. Okay, maybe we should really, really plan ahead something that could be more structured and with a very, very interesting impact. So for us, this was also a sort of like starting point to really, really rediscover the whole concept of the event. Wayne Smith West, let's say before 2020, let's say the last edition of Wayne Smith West 2020, during the last edition, we had 600 industry professionals traveling to Trieste and, let's say, gathering in one single venue. I don't know if I want to say unfortunately or luckily, that type of Wayne Smith West, I guess it will not be something doable anymore. And I think that the idea is not like saying this with a sad tone, but it's really like with a positive approach. And I think that the most important thing is like really for us was to reshape the whole concept of Wayne Smith West, where basically we will continue after the positive experience of the online edition that we had last year, is to really, really focus on a very strong hybrid version of Wayne Smith West, where the biggest challenge will be how really to be able to bring together the online and the on-site world in order to avoid to have a major league on site and some professionals that are just participating online feeling that are far away. So first of all, the idea is to reduce the number of on-site participants. Most probably, most likely, we will have half of the participants, if possible, to travel at all, and if possible, to organize an event at all, coming to Trieste. And so if we reduce the number of physical attendees, what we will do will be like to increase the number of activities that makes completely sense and that can give somehow access for those physical attendees to all our online participants. This is why we will organize, for example, an event called Travel Around the World in 3 days, where basically we will offer the possibility to open window in every part of the world, from Africa, Latin America, and Asia, So to make really necessary to have a room in Trieste where our physical attendees will have only that option to meet the, let's say, online participants from the rest of the world. Of course, we will prioritize green mobility and of course, traveling by train instead by plane. And what we will do is not only promote this, but what we will do is we will try to arrange together, we are already in first discussion with the railway companies to make the beginning of the journey on the starting point already part of the When East Meets West experience. So that basically the idea is that, okay, I'm not just traveling myself, but in that precise train, already I could feel that the event is starting. And finally, always speaking about compensation, we also thought about a compensation also that was basically the result of this long year and a half lived online. I don't know if it happened to you, but I received many packages and shifts and parcels from all over the world. We were the ones also sending gifts to some of the participants that participated in the online version of When East Meets West. And we thought, no, probably this is it doesn't make sense. This is like creating something like that. It doesn't really, it's not sustainable. So what we will do, we decided that the main gift of our next edition of When East Meets West will be to give as a present a tree to compensate all the travels that we will do, and we will create our first When East Meets West forest. And this is thanks to a website called Tridom that Andrea, remember you told me that you know very well. So this is of course it's a small incentive, but this is also something that can have an impact when speaking about that. So and it's something that anybody can do. It's very easy and accessible. And then of course, and I will close my presentation here, is that of course we will use most of the activities and green policy initiatives that I mentioned before concerning the event itself, in terms of plastic use, in terms of printing, in terms of daily office practices. So basically we will try also to be very careful on our own here in the office. And this is why we also appointed a green policy manager, so that she will be responsible for everything. She will be very let's say, she will really be able to coordinate all the activities before, during, and after the event. So this is all. I don't know if Andrea spoke too much, so.
No, it was okay. 10 minutes.
Okay.
So, and a lot of feedback, a lot of input. So I think it's really useful for us and for participants, also in view of next deadlines of media schemes. So thank you for this helpful introduction about your market. And Giulio, what do you think about it? What about your festival? I am a fan of La Guarimba Film Festival, so I know that Giulio is already implementing something is in place, let's say, speaking about strategy.
Hello, everybody. I am Giulio Vita from La Guarimba Film Festival. Thank you, Andrea, for your kindness, as always. So what we have been doing is, well, we live in southern Italy, where it is already complicated. Italy is not a very progressive country in terms of recycling. And especially southern Italy is not. So, and events like music events, film festivals, all around the world, but particularly here, doesn't really think about that. So we have been developing, I think since 5 years ago, is how to avoid plastic inside the festival, which is not like very simple, of course. So the first thing we did, because, well, it was at the beginning was also money-wise, like how can we do this, but without losing all the money that we have. So what we did is that we find the companies that were doing this in Italy, There are some companies that are actually working, like doing recyclable materials and stuff like that, because especially like plastic waters or plastic glasses are very used in the festivals, or coffee, you know, you always have coffee, things like that. So what the first thing we did is that we found a company, an Italian company that were doing recyclable materials that was able to provide those, because this is a Southern Italian festival. So we do a lot of big meals with 100 people, all the filmmakers. So this means like a lot of waste in a way. So what we did is this: we contact this company to give us like the products to recycle, like you know, like dishes, glasses, stuff like that can be recyclable. The other thing we did is, because we were wasting too much plastic in plastic bottles, we do a film festival in the summer in August in southern Italy. It's like 40 degrees when it's good. So it means that we need a lot of water. So what we did, we contact this, at the beginning, the first year we did like our own bottles that were disgusting, were terrible, they were very bad, so that didn't work. Then what we did is that we decided to contact a company we contact all the companies in Italy that were doing bottles. Nobody answered us. Then we contact companies outside Italy. And we found this very nice company that is Clean Canteen. They do these very nice bottles that are actually very good, because it's this bottle here. So it's very good because it really maintains the cold water even in the hot of Calabrian sun. So that was a very good move, and they give us enough bottles for our team and to sell to the audience, and that was like a turning point, because we sold these things and we actually make profit from going green, and before we weren't making profit just selling the bottles of water, because it's like 50 cents a bottle of water, so it was not very money-wise, was better to go green. So yeah, this kind of things is what we have been doing. Is that, well, thanks to COVID, we went, all the programming was completely digital. I mean, the festival was physical. We didn't do the festival online, but the program, all the things we didn't print it. We just used it on mobile. We did print the catalog in recyclable material, but we did print it. And a lot of, well, at the beginning, I'll say the fact that, of course, it's not the same solution for all the festivals. And we are in this community of film festivals, and especially the Nordic Festival has these radical ideas, like avoiding taking planes at all, which is very nice, it's very cool. If you are in Amsterdam, that makes sense. If you are in the middle of nowhere in Calabria, that is really unlikely to happen. Yeah, because we don't have transportation, so it's just impossible. I mean, even the airplane are kind of difficult. So we try to avoid our impact as a festival and to create a campaign for children. We have a special program for recycling for children in a cinematic program, and we do a lot of activities with them. We try to inform the audience what we are doing, because we really believe that this is the most thing that we can do, like avoiding the waste and inform. That's kind of our deal here. We cannot, unfortunately, we cannot say no, it's okay, because I think like Amsterdam, Amantea, our town, by train is like 2 days. So it's unlikely that will really, yeah, like Lithuania, Calabria by plane is like 1 day of plane. So I guess that by train that could be interesting. So yeah, what we have been trying to do is, especially the materials we have and the things we have. The same with the food. We try to we do all the food here locally. and this is the other thing, like in Calabria, especially in the southern regions of Italy, this thing that eating from the land or of the farmer, it's very likely, it's normal. Like restaurants here are very normal that they would use organic materials that maybe in London they will charge you like £100 for that, but here it's like the normality. Here is not because we are very progressive, it's just because we are smart enough to not eat shit. So we really believe in this thing of eating from the land. So we do, for us it's kind of easy not going to the festival, to McDonald's or to a fast food restaurant, because it's impossible. We don't have any other possibility. So it's we go directly to the store. So these kind of things are pretty nice. The things that are always very difficult is that, for example, the bags that we do the bags for festival. We try to avoid always more to not overdo, and to use to always try to use like this is two things. It's not just recyclable wise, but also about local economy impact. Of course, the bags in China cost us less if we do it, but we prefer to use a company from here that use recyclable material. It's not always easy, to be honest. It's one of the biggest challenges because it costs a little bit more. But what we try to do is to cut a little bit more from other places. So it's always a challenge among budget, among like real life, like is this thing are we using? Because once we have like a sponsor from toilet paper, I'm saying this as a bad example. We had this big sponsor of toilet paper, but they were from Australia. So they send us this big toilet paper from Australia with the very recyclable. But the travel from Australia to here for the merch, it didn't make sense. So it was better to just go to the supermarket and buy the fucking paper there, you know? So it's this kind of things that sometimes we see the label, this is green, so this is cool. Yeah, but maybe it's not always that cool as you think. So
Giulio, a second question.
Yeah.
Following your presentation, is it possible being green and be collaborative? Because in media, no, there is this special attention to the collaboration with other festival, let's say, no, other European festival, with other platform. Yeah. But is it possible in this pandemic situation, no, being collaborative and being green?
Okay, well, now I'm going to answer this because you asked it, Andrea. I believe that the media program as is now with this network of festival, I think is ridiculous. I think it doesn't make any sense. It can make sense like festivals like are very close and they can collaborate, but you know, festivals have been collaborating since the beginning of a festival. I mean, since our first year, we have been collaborating. Things happen organically. By doing a funding like this, that is now, is forcing some friendships that are just made for made. Like, oh, we have to print this because now we can justify this money. So this kind of vibes happen for me. And I think like very good relationship and very virtuous examples are getting loose because the precision of the things. Answer you, I do believe that you can be green and collaborative, but you have to make sense. Like as I say, like don't send to Leuven from Calabria products just because they are green. It's better to find like, I think it's better to share like models, to share cool ideas. Yeah, man, because as we say, every contest is not the same. Every festival has a purpose and has a meaning in their own place. So I mean, I think it's very delicate this, but for sure we can share like models and things, of course, like yeah. But for example, I don't know, in Lithuania, I found like very cool stuff that they do with gadgets, but they do it in Vilnius. So for me, it doesn't make sense to have those. I love them, but I would not have them because for cost and for distance doesn't make sense. And in our particular vision of La Guarimba Film Festival, we're not we're interested in a green approach, but we're more interested in the anti-capitalistic view, because we believe that the war is not going bad just because the green or not green. It's more because we have to change our model of society in a capitalistic view. So this is why we do it in our little town in southern Italy, a free festival, because we believe that culture has to be accessible and have to give some values. I don't care if the value is to eat a soup that is very green for 20 euros, that for me is part of the problem. Okay, so we really believe in a destructuralization of the economy.
Yeah, but it was just the idea of this event, of this panel, is to have some suggestions, some tips. Also the question was related to some creative collaboration, no? If you have any practices. And then in general for the specific issues about the collaboration in media, you can have different kind of collaboration, speaking about the cost for subtitles or whatever, so
yes, in this way, Andrea, this is for example, about the subtitling is very interesting for sure, but the thing is we do Italian subtitles. We always give the subtitles to the filmmakers when we do them, so they can like screen another Italian festival. But the thing is, like in media, they really want international things. So subtitling wise, I cannot help a festival in Lithuania because I have the Italian subtitles. I mean, I can help them with the file, maybe with the SRT that they want, but that's the thing.
Maybe the English version, the French version.
Yeah. I mean, we do this. What we have been doing a lot with other festivals that we did this year with Lithuania, with the Vilnius Film Festival, it was having programs for other festivals that it looks like maybe is not allowed. But the thing is, like places like Lithuania, we don't know that much in southern Italy films about the Lithuania, So it's cool that we managed to screen these films to our audience because we have a particular audience. So this is why I think it's a good way to open doors to other festivals. I went to Lithuania 2 years ago and I give like a masterclass on social media for cultural organizations. So it was more generalistic. It's not what we do, but what is in general what we can do. So I think this definitely share of knowledge and shares of models is the most important thing that we should do. I think some of us are already doing it. We are doing it with other festivals. I don't believe that it's good to just like share the juries or share like, I think it's more interesting like this, like you have a cool program on this. Oh, wow, I would like that to do. Why don't you bring a program that you create for me here? So we have been doing that and I think it have been working very well. I would like to do it more bigger, of course, it's because at the end a festival is opens the culture of another place, no? So it's cool, like for example, I don't know, if Lithuania has a great band that maybe in Italy they don't know about it, it's cool that the Vilnius Festival suggested and we can bring it, This kind of collaboration I think are I'm more interested in that kind of collaboration, bringing other artists to our audience that are maybe well known in other places, but here no. So that's kind of cool, I think.
Okay. Thank you, Giulio. I think it's time for the Q&A. So if from the public, the participant has some specific question for our speaker, we're here and we're waiting for you. Alessandro, before he spoke about specific attention for green projects, maybe speaking about EAVE. I would like to ask to Romas or to Giulio if what is their approach, to when you have a green project, let's say a project which is about greening. Romas or Giulio, who wants to?
The approach for greening.
Yeah, during when you for your festival you're choosing for the selection of your programming, you have a specific attention for project which has this specific topic. Yeah.
Well, we have a special program called Cambur, that means banana in Venezuelan, and it's a special program of films about recycling. It's animation for about environmentalists, about yeah. So it's more for children and teenagers. So we screen this blog and we promote this blog. It's very nice. This is what we do. It's not in the other sections. It's not that, because we don't have a DIM or a TEM or anything, but in this section in particular, we create this for this. This is the approach we do. Yeah.
Thank you, Julio. Romas, what about you? Being a producer, do you have any specific attention to this topic or not?
Well, you know, my career path is very specific because I'm producing my own films for the last decade. So, you know, and I'm already working on various political topics. I mean, or also about, well, more philosophical about whether, you know, political action, meaningful political action is possible. But, you know, my films are very diverse and they involve LGBT plus community quite a lot, and, you know, other communities. I think that, you know, I don't necessarily want to do a film on ecology for the moment, but, you know, like, I mean, maybe one day I'll think of something that matches with that. But you know, fiction films are all about drama, and, you know, we cannot expect films to be educational. Like we can't favor the films that are educational, because that's not the only purpose of cinema. So that's what I think.
Thank you, Romas. Alessandro, do you want to add something about when it meets West? Do you have any strategy, any attention to?
Well, let's say that of course the priority of all our events is to try to select. I don't want to use the word best projects or best films, because it's not this. It's like select projects that we can help the most. So this is like for sure. But if the project can be helpful on different layers, of course, it will be read with different perspective, of course. So we are lucky also every time to be working also with other festivals and other markets around the world, and we always have access to content that basically is not always related only to other European culture. So I think that we are without having a specific section, we always achieve to select one or two projects that basically have this type of theme, and it was very natural, very natural.
Ludovica, I have another question for you. If from the public, since we don't have any question from the public, Giulio spoke about the budget, no? So the link between be green and the impact on the budget. What is your perspective on this?
So that's a very true concern. Most of the times, as I said before, I talk mainly with producers, right? So that's, of course, the first line of questioning. It's like, is it going to cost more? What does this mean for my budget? In terms of actually sustainable production practices, so trying to shift your set and your single production, the truth is that often, of course, some materials are currently more expensive, of course, on the market, but at the same time, we always have to evaluate the whole process as one, right? So often what we find is that optimizing other parts of your production, such as your energy consumption or transport and so on, can really make up a lot of the savings that can help you cover some of the increased cost of other products. So basically, very simply, what we find is that usually most of the times, if you sort of apply all of the elements of sustainability that you don't really spend any more. You just spend less on some elements and more on others, and get to the same that you would have spent otherwise. And so, of course, at that time, then why not do it if you're spending the same? Clearly, if you have huge budgets, you can optimize even more, and so you can potentially even create savings. And then, of course, if we're talking more about like low budgets, I think it's always important to, as Julia was saying, of course, like what is sustainable, right? Of course, green is this word that we use, but sustainability is economic as well as environmental. So clearly, you can't make it like get so off balance that you cannot afford something just for it to be green. Also, again, what does this green mean? Like, it's not like a one sort of label for everything. So it's really about, again, the strategizing in the beginning, and again, of course, sharing practices, sharing technologies. Often, like in my specific case, you know, the work that I do for the production is vastly covered by the savings, mainly of energy alone, for example. And so it seems like it would be more expensive because when you maybe go to the supermarket and you buy the organic fruit instead of the non-organic, it costs more because that's the one product, clearly. But you know, if you reevaluate what you do, and same as Alessandro was saying, you know, if when you really reevaluate how you do things, how you organize an event, how you organize a production, then it's really not that difficult. Of course, we are very sort of traditional, like we really are, we do things always the same because we, you know, our sector has huge traditions. But I've also seen, you know, that it really can be done differently, and you know, it can, you know, of course, it's all about compromises, but it's possible. So I wouldn't worry too much about budgets.
That's good. Alessandro, Romas, Giulio, do you have something to add about the budget?
I have to add that I was very happy when Alessandro said that he sees very positively how media actually like pushes to the boundary a little bit and makes you think of something else, because from my experience, I've heard that not you know, all the industry professionals were happy about the changes that were introduced, and about that, oh no, now we have to make 2 more strategies next to the marketing strategy, next to distribution strategy. But actually listening to all of you, it seems that it's not that hard, and it's actually very, very important, and it sounds very, very inspiring how you could think of so many different ways how to make it work and find actually some positive ways of converting this. Of course, it's a challenge too, because you have to change of what have you been doing for a long time. But I mean, if we want to do this for a long time, we need to change our practices. So I just wanted to give this comment. I don't really have any more questions, but yeah, just wanted to thank you. That it was very, very interesting to listen to you all.
Can I just comment on what Osteia just said? Of course, none of us spent a wonderful summer preparing the application for Creative Europe. So this is for sure, it was not like the easiest summer ever. But, and I think that, but you know, like, I completely agree with Giulio when he said that a partnership should be based on an organic and natural, let's say, bond between partners. So it's never, but it's always like, it's never because there is a financial opportunity that create an event. No, I create an event because of the sake of the event, and then I try to get to raise funding. So I completely agree. But one of the main positive outcomes of all this new Creative Europe summer nightmare, it was that basically we, the markets, had the chance to connect more and more, and also with the training providers. We had several sessions together to share ideas, to share, to comment on what were all the questions. And one of the things where we all agreed is that at the beginning, when we all read the application, we were completely lost. The new scheme, the new budget, but at the end, when we submitted, everyone said, okay, now it feels like my timeline, my structure of the event, the strategy is much more planned, is much more really like, okay, I can really touch it and see it. And I think that this is like exactly the same thing for the strategy for, let's say, a more environmentally respectful strategy or diversity, inclusion strategy. I think that in the end, it was really like helpful, really to think, okay, how my event can make a small difference, but it can make it somehow, and how to achieve it. And I do completely agree that in terms of investment, it can be, of course, it can be more expensive, it can be more, let's say, complicated to finance it. But as what Ludovica was saying, if you manage to really to find a new concept that basically makes accessible the thing, because it's an investment which is not only financial, it's a big investment of the whole, let's say, event. I think if it makes sense, it's the right direction. So of course, let's say we will never be able to have the same strategy with the same format as we used to have 2 years ago. So this is just to say that, of course, the change of format allowed us also to basically include new ideas that are also more sustainable for sure for our event.
Thank you, Alessandro. And I think with Osteia, it was a good moment for the closing remarks, let's say. So it was really, it summarized, no, the idea of this panel, no. As you said, Alessandro, sharing our thoughts, our experience, our good practice was mainly the idea of this panel. And I would like to thank everyone, Osteia, Ludovica, Romas, Giulio, and Alessandro for this sharing of thoughts, let's say. We're already in a way, as you said. So thank you again, and thanks to everyone for the participation, and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you for having us. Bye-bye.
Bye.